you actually started in a very, in your own words, chaotic and broken time, and now you're bringing out a podcast. Like, tell us the story.
I really do believe that God prepares us for our purpose. And growing up, my life was chaotic. My parents really should not have been together. I grew up believing that my dad died when I was 3 years old, and my whole world was built on, thank God he's dead. So imagine what I thought of men, right? Fast forward, when I met my husband, James, he reminded me of, his dad specifically reminded me of everything that I saw as a perfectly emotionally safe man. We celebrated our 19 years anniversary. Everything that I had gone through and that I had witnessed has prepared me to do the work that I do today, which is something that I just adore.
Hey, listeners, it is Sarah Grace. I am so excited to get out of your way and let you hear from the amazing Alma. This conversation is going to blow your mind. Truly incredible. But before we dive in, I had to tell you that we had some technical issues with the audio. I apologize for that. We have cleaned it up as best we can. You are going to hear a slight echo as part of the interview. I knew that if I met with Alma again, we just wouldn't get the same amazing, raw, real conversation. And so we cleaned it up as best we could. We're going to give you the real version of our conversation here together, and I hope you enjoy it. Apologies for the echo, and enjoy this conversation. Let's get talking. Welcome to Unreasonable Autonomy. My name is Sarah Grace. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs and innovators who refuse to settle. Here we dive deep into raw, real conversations with boundary pushers who have pursued seemingly impossible ideas and yet have achieved unreasonable results, whether that's in their faith, relationships, health, politics, yes, even business. All of those conversations are happening right here, right now. So let's buckle up, because this isn't about playing it safe. Unreasonable ideas, unstoppable results. Let's go. Hey, my friends, you are in for a wild ride today. I'm so excited to welcome to the podcast the amazing Alma Curran. She is the founder and coach of the Intimacy Repatterning Method. And Alma, as someone who grew up in a chaotic and broken home, she has been on a mission to help her clients rebuild their marriage and be the role models for their children, regardless of the obstacles. She's helped couples heal after infidelity, separation, and estrangement, and watch them create the marriage they never dared to imagine. You are in for one of the coolest rides of your life, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, the amazing Alma Curran. Let's talk. You guys, it is Sarah Grace, and welcome back to the Unquestionable Union podcast. And we have got what I would say is like the secret weapon of 2025 in the room today. I am so excited to welcome the amazing Alma Curran into the podcast room. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me here, Sarah Grace. I'm so excited. I don't even know where we're going to go, but I'm so super excited.
That's like the, right? That's the beauty. Because if we decide where we're going to go, we're going to miss all the really good stuff, right?
Yeah.
All the really good stuff. So for those of you who don't know Alma, she is a force to be reckoned with. And in fact, the reason I stepped into your world, or her world, is because I knew her husband James first, right? I met James in the ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson world, and I started to see him, post every day, and then I'm this expert at linchpin and all those kinds of things. But the real genius came when I came on this podcast and recognized that you guys were a pair.
Yeah.
There was something magical in this marriage and in this relationship, which I know we're going to dive into a little bit later here on the podcast today. But I thought, who is this woman? Who is this woman? I want to know about her. I was able to see the Mastermind in Paradise event, and I am just in a space of pure curiosity to dive into who you are and what has made you this secret weapon on the success that you have had and James has had, and where that message is going to come from. So audience members, hang on for a wild ride today, because Alma's story is far from normal. So for you, and not today, let's go and into a little bit about you. You've got a new podcast, one that's coming out like very, very relationship based, but you started in a very, in your own words, chaotic and broke a ton. And there was some pretty heavy impact about your mother's influence in your life and all of those things. You have been able to get that script, build a beautiful marriage, and now you're bringing out a podcast. Like, tell us the story. Take 3 to 5 minutes on what it was like.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think the things that's really, I believe I'm religious, so I believe I'm a big fan of God. I don't know about you, Sarah Grace.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I really do believe that God prepares us for our purpose, right? And growing up, my life was chaotic. You know, my parents really should not have been together. They definitely should not have had children, but they did. They got married and they had children. And my brother and I are a result of that marriage. And I grew up believing that my dad died when I was 3 years old. And my whole world was built on, thank God he's dead, because if it wasn't him, it would have been us. Right. So imagine what I thought of men, right? All men are cheaters, abusers, alcoholics, any adjective, negative adjective that you could use to describe a man. That is what I believed. And obviously, fast forward, I tended to attract those kinds of relationships, right? Because what we focus on, we get. And then when I met my husband, James, we talked about this. He reminded me of, his dad specifically reminded me of everything that I saw as a perfectly emotionally safe man, which was a replica of my grandfather, of my mother's mom. He was a very safe, stoic man, but he ruled with an iron fist. He lived through World War I, World War II, raised 9 children during war. I mean, like he did what he could do, right? But my father-in-law reminded me of my grandfather. So I thought, okay, this is what my boyfriend, James, is going to grow up to be, because we were 19, 20, so we were kids ourselves. So we've had many, many ups and downs. This Wednesday, last Wednesday, we celebrated our 19 years anniversary of marriage. Thank you, which is 24 years of being together. So we've been through just about anything a marriage could give you, any challenge, but we decided to stay together. And for me, everything that I had gone through and that I had witnessed, from my parents going through, to me going through with my husband, has prepared me to do the work that I do today, which is something that I just adore.
I'm really excited to dive into the work that you're doing today. But before we do that, I want to go a little bit deeper into your relationship with your father. When you talk about your father, or you hear his face, you saw the
I'm angry. That's the first emotion that comes up. Yes, anger for sure.
And can anger be healthy?
Absolutely. Yes.
How have you seen anger work? Your anger towards your father. How have you seen that work for your benefit in life?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because I believe that if I wasn't angry, I would have been on antidepressants. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I would have been on some sort of dependence, some sort of a solution for that, to suppress that. So I like my anger. I like that I get emotionally charged about things that I find unjust.
Oh my goodness. So you have a deep sense of need for justice and fairness in your life.
100%. Yes.
Okay. Have you ever dove into, like, Unquestionable
Yes.
So are you a dominant? You're a D?
I'm a 99 D, 98 AI. So you never know if I'm going to punch you or hug you.
Well, I got a hug in Mexico, so I'll take that as a compliment.
But I think you're a high D yourself, aren't you?
I am. I'm a D. I'm a DI, right?
There you go.
So we're very similar. And then the interesting, and you tell me if you experience, I've looked at Mandy Kinney and understand.
I love Mandy. Oh, I love it.
As good as they come, anyone with me session with her and how they operate. And my experience with her is actually about this dance on Sunday. So I thought that was super you brought that up. I said, this actually being motivated from being like anger.
100%.
Them is anger makes the things and the good things admit that they're wrong. It actually creates an incredible sense of urgency. That is a deep slide. When anybody doesn't always have not mean you're a stubborn sense. So my question is for other people that have to be in their life, like anger, parent, us, parent, and one to now. How can use that as fuel rather than paralysis and darkness?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know what? I carried a lot of anger towards my father and my mother, right? And I carried a lot of anger towards him for being the way that he was, and for her for tolerating it and putting up and putting us in danger's way because of her weakness. So I held a lot of anger towards both of them. But that, so how we kind of transfer that anger is I cannot take it out on my mother today. Right? I cannot behave in an angry way towards her today. I cannot punish the woman today that she is today, right? Now I can be angry about those situations, about what happened to them, what happened, why they were there, because behind every what, there's a why, right? Why are these people doing what they're doing? So that anger can be a fuel to understand why people are the way they are. I have clients this morning. I was working with a client. I predominantly work with clients who are about to get a divorce due to infidelity, right? It's the next step. So I say, don't divorce yet. Let me in, right? So,
No divorce.
let me in. So, but it's really understanding why these beautiful, amazing, intelligent, capable people are doing some of the most detrimental things, and they don't even understand them, right? And we just kind of, as a society, we write them off. Where I believe there's so much more to people than just label, you're off, right? So channeling anger is really that fuel to understanding why people do what they do, right? Because then it becomes a purpose. The anger becomes a tool towards a purpose.
I love that. I can't think of a better way to say it. Anger becomes a tool towards yourself. And so for our listeners, if they have anger and resentment, very intense feelings, they can use that to bring like unleash and not as well anger. That's what you should have them do.
Absolutely. Yes. And let's just not write them off quite yet, right? It's, my father, he was 32 when he passed away. The guy didn't really have a chance to turn the ship around, right? He sunk with it. And so let's not write them off yet, right?
And even the way that you say that makes me feel more compassionate towards him. He did not even get players to write writings where I have had they have had the captains do up to themselves saying, hey, well, I also listen to your conversation right there. You're supposed to say you're talking to you. So one of the other things you said that I would don't write people off.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about this with notice. You've often seen team members or they're lining themselves in those organizations with mental challenges, make mistakes sometimes. And so it's wise to give someone the third chance versus this is just who they are and this is not for them. And as long as far as my help you talk.
Well, I think you stay with people, right? People are going to make mistakes, right? But that's what we do, right? And when I think about my own husband, he was kind of paralyzed in that perfectionism because he wasn't allowed to make mistakes, right? There was a big giant no. So when people are not allowed to make mistakes, they don't do anything. There's just this whole powerful human here bursting with energy, and they can't get it. They can't put that energy into anything because they're not allowed to make mistakes. And who am I to say you only get one shot or two shots? But how do I know where to draw the line? Because I've been given forgiveness many, many times. Thank God for that, right? So how do you know when to stop that? I'd say you first of all, you design a goal. We're all goal oriented, right? You decide, okay, this is where we're going and this is the path, and stay committed to your outcome, but do be flexible in how you get there, right? And because there's no straight line, we know in entrepreneurship, we're just all over the place, right? And you and I don't know about you, but for sure me, I've made many, many mistakes in entrepreneurship. Imagine if somebody cut off the line and said, okay, you've made 7 mistakes, Alma, that's it, get back to the cubicle. Like, no.
Right. None of us would be here.
Exactly. None of us would be here. So deciding where you are going with that person, what part they can play in that role, and be forgiving, be compassionate, right? And stay with them, meaning give them a plan, give them a developmental plan, right? A path. Let them know let them know what the margin of error is, right? And help them get there. Because I really do believe that every human has a purpose, and if they're in the wrong position, that's fine. Help them grow somewhere else, but let's not punish people, right?
Wow. And I know that you're a believer in God. I am as well. And as I look the Savior on the earth, he never permanently labeled people other than that there is maximum in your consensus. Like about Peter, Simon Peter, right? And I think exactly what he was angry, and he had a temper, and he had anger, and he had breaks, and he was confess, and he was things, and your Savior gave to him, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So when you go into the work of intuition in your perception of God, influencing is you in that.
Well, I believe in putting God in the center of every home, right? Because if God is not in the center of our home, then somebody has to be, right? And in the absence of God, I become the center of the home. And then I'm just working through what benefits me, right? How it serves me. And I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to make bad choices, but when God is at the center of the home, then everything goes through God, and you may lie to your spouse, but you're not going to be able to lie to God. So you gotta be right with Him, right? So your spouse at some point has to have faith that, hey, you're making this right with God, or it's your this, right? You're going to be the one answering this. And so if God is at the center of the household, of the home, it just transforms the family.
I want to push you on this because I am just curious. Do you believe that a belief in God relationship makes it easier to feel marriage?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Right.
Because He's there. God is present. That is we're all here. We're all God's children, right? We're all children of God. He wants us to do our best work, right? So if we put Him at the center of our marriage and our family, then we can't fail, right? Because again, at some point you're going to answer God. There's only one being that you're going to be answering to. And if you have lied, and if you have continued to do the thing that you keep getting forgiven to, that's something that you're going to have to deal with. But if you actually accept God at the center of your home, you yourself transform. And when one person changes, the relationship changes, and the other person doesn't have a choice but to change, right? They have to change because now all of a sudden they have to create different ways of dealing with you, right? Of working with you. So you absolutely have that effect on the other person. But I don't believe that you can do that without the higher power in your home. And we believe in God. So that higher power is God for us.
Oh, I love it. And whether they call it the universe or God or the Holy Spirit or the Father or whatever they do, He's there and it's responsible, right?
Yeah.
Because I do think that there is a worldwide view that rubs people the wrong way. You really know it's very to this. There is a feeling of when I have present and I love happier, our my clarity of however you want to say it. And then the polarizing side says, no, I don't believe in God anymore. And I have direction and I'm spiritual and all of those things. And so I think it's hard for both sides to accept their side. That leaves me one is so I'm happy today I'm saying. And the believer that there is a reward for following Jesus kind of vibe. The series.
This is really, we could talk about this for many hours, but I know, right? But, if I can give you two answers to this one. I grew up in a religious environment, specifically this grandfather of mine, the perfect picture of a man, really had a huge influence on me when it comes to believing in God's existence and that everything is at the will of God. And my husband and James and I, I always had a belief in God, and James did not. At some point when he was a kid, he was. Eventually he turned atheist, then agnostic. Then just recently, God entered our home fully. And I'm sure you and James talked about that. And so I know my marriage with the absence of God and my level of happiness and safety in my marriage with the absence of God. And I know the level of safety and happiness in my family with God's presence. So it's, yes, we made it through. We did all the things. We traveled. Life was all right, but it never felt safe, right? Because if you don't have that presence of God, then you're kind of at your own will, and you're doing the best that you can with what you have in your own head. And in your head, the part that you're asking for solutions is also the same part of your brain, part of your body that's created a problem. So it gets really confusing, right? So it's really hard to seek your own wisdom, right? So that's what James and I did for about 23 years of our relationship. And in the last year of our relationship, it's almost like we were in kindergarten and now we're in high school. It's like we were playing house and now we actually have a house.
Incredible. Nothing that James would as he would say
100%.
So
yeah. So that's one thing. And here's, if I can give you the other story. I come from Bosnia, and in Bosnia, we had a war during the 90s, and I was a teenager in the war, and I went through all the things that war gives you. The concentration camp, the refugee life, the no food, no shelter, like bombs, grenades, bullets, dead bodies. I've been in the middle of all of that. So when one sits here like me in my beautiful Asheville home, it's so easy for me to say, I'm questioning the existence of God, right? It's like, but when you are in the thick of it, when there is no hope, when there's nothing, when everything is working against you, all the elements, you're living on cement and exposed to snow and rain and everything, and you don't even have a bathroom to go to. You don't even have clothes to change. You have nothing. Who do you turn to? You don't have a choice but to turn to something. Part of you believes that there's got to be a reason behind this. There's got to be something beyond this, right? This cannot be my life. This spot in cement in the middle of everything, this cannot be my life. So you turn to God or you kill yourself. Let's end this, right? There's no hope. So it was easy for James and I have this conversation a lot, actually. It's easy for a 26-year-old or 36-year-old James to sit in his home, but I'm not so sure, right? But when you have been in the thick of it, when you've been in the most dire situations, which luckily most of us in this beautiful country don't end up having to deal with.
Yeah.
Not believing in God is kind of easy. So I'm not saying that everybody has to go through the darkest parts that God gives us, but just having a little compassion towards those who actually do believe in God and what joy they actually experience with the presence of God.
I'm like, I apologize for the enemy for this because they're so about this topic, Alma, so much. So I would say in seeing, assassination Charlie Kirk, there has been more on as the country, right?
Yeah.
You bring in such a perspective, and you have you lived internationally, you have been in war. I cannot blame or bond with very privileged childhood I'm getting now. And so it has a really intense and lyrical name of Happy New United States. And as you're someone been through war in Bosnia, what do you wish knew about what our country with our country war?
Oh, that's not a topic I feel strongly about. We do have a lot of people who believe, in socialism and equal, all of this. That whole thing, it's not real. It can't happen. I'm the product of that. It's just, it can last until it blows up and then you have millions of people dead. So that is the trajectory that you are on if you make that a reality, right? Living proof of that. So that is a danger that we're facing if we go in a direction where kind of anything goes, we accept anything, everything goes. Oh, you can be whatever you want to be. You can all of that. We're really gonna be in big trouble if we allow that to continue, because at some point you have to draw the line, and you can't. You're not allowed to draw the line, right?
Yes. And I'm really curious about your perception of this, because as a Jew, right, you are very driven by fairness and return and like those kinds of parts of our life. And so when you start to look at things like socialism, equal, how do you, I want things to be fair. I want things to be just, but I also experience and I can manufacture with the government. Where do you stay?
Well, I want things to be fair for those people who work hard, right? So, yeah, if my husband is working 16 hours a day, give him his fair share, right? what he deserves, right? But if I'm working 2 hours a day, then give me my fair share of what I deserve, right? So it's really, I want justice. Justice doesn't mean equal piece of pie for everyone. Justice means what you deserve. And we don't deserve things just because we're born, just because we exist, right? We deserve. There's a level of earning, right? I remember I came to this country as a refugee, and one of the first things that we did, they took us through this whole process and they gave us food stamps. And they're like, no, we're not going to give food stamps. I am so sick and tired of this subhuman lifestyle. Absolutely not. Not a day in our life will we be getting that, right? So I'm a big believer in justice of your piece of pie, whatever you've put into the mix.
Incredible. And so you don't do it as because you are born, all things should be equal and handed to you. You believe that probably the number one thing, right? And God's grace, probably deserving 100%. But when it comes to economics, comes to country, that really should work with how and work you are showing up.
100%. Absolutely.
It's fascinating. I think sometimes I get like a little bit when I hear about how foreign nations feel about, right? We're always just like really large and hamburgers, eating people. And I'm starting to catch why.
Yeah, but I don't know. I really think that people, if somebody believes that life is better somewhere else, like give it a shot. Truly, try it. I've lived in Germany as a refugee. I had to have a surgery and I couldn't even go to the city next to us because I didn't have the proper paperwork. I couldn't get on a bus just because I want to get on a bus. There's when you're in a foreign country, you don't have the same rights as the people of that country. You just don't. And you don't even have, I mean, in Bosnia, I didn't have the same rights as other people, right? It's, when you live in America, the moment you get off that plane, you can do anything. There's nothing you can't do.
Yep.
So I mean, I really, when people think of something like about foreign countries or how much life is better somewhere else, go give it a shot, try it, and you have to see it for yourself.
And I think that echoes what you said earlier about love college, and it's often through experiencing both that we're able to really commit to a path. What's out in, what's within him, which one am I feeling better? Am I feeling right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so I cannot wait to wait.
Yeah.
You've got a new podcast. I would love to hear about what the podcast is, what it is, and what's the vision behind it.
Okay. Hi,
for just a second.
Yeah.
My internet just got off about 20 seconds, so I'm going to read. Okay, here we go. Okay, I can't anymore to ask you about work. And what I know about this new podcast, I think it's relationships. I would love to hear the vision behind it and how it's all about.
Beautiful. Okay, so as you know, as a high D, we are building the plane while we're flying it, right? So we're just putting it all together.
So good at it.
I know, and we keep doing it because we keep getting rewarded for it, right? So it's called Unquestionable Union. And its purpose is to bring guests, my past successful clients and my friends like yourself and your husband and other people that we have within our community that I know are, again, God-oriented people and successful people in life, in marriage, in business, in just about anything they do, and are not afraid to roll up their sleeves and actually get to work, right? I don't just deserve a healthy marriage. I gotta show up and choose my husband in my marriage every day, and so it's really about showing folks that unquestionable union is in your future if you stop questioning it, right? If you actually put in the work, right? And so it's these couples who actually put in the work, who don't just take their partner for granted or don't just say, well, that's just how I am, take it or leave it, right? It's people choosing to work on it, just like when they work on their bodies, just like they work on their business, putting in the same amount, if not more, effort into the marriage.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
And at the time of this recording, the Facebook is live, like you can find it.
Yes, absolutely. People can find it. Yeah.
Beautiful. We will link it and make sure everybody knows where to find it. Tell me a little bit about your experience working with these couples and interviewing these couples. What is one of the more common hurdles that very driven marriages that have one successful or dual successful partners tend to?
Sarah Grace, this is really the common thread here. It's mostly women that I get to work with initially. There have been a few men, but it's mostly women. And so here's what happens. These women, there's a story behind every high eyes reason, right? So there's a story. You have these strong, powerful, driven women. They're like, I only have this much time on this planet. I'm going to make the most impact I can, right? I'm going to give it everything. I'm going to maximize myself. Since you're familiar with Understand That Me, I'm sure you have taken the strengths assessment. Most of us women, these women that I'm talking about, maximizer is in the top 5, right? It's exactly, right? Every single one, right? So it's like, I'm going to do it. And so they're very driven. They're very focused for their own reasons. Whatever happens in childhood is a kind of similar story, different flavor, but it's similar mix. Mm-hmm. And these women, they go through life and they find this guy. They're like, okay, I'm a walking chaos. Right? I do everything. I can do anything. But you seem stable. You seem pretty stable. You seem like you have your head on your shoulder. Like you got this, right? You're steady, right? Usually engineer type of brain or some sort of something like that, right? High conscientious guy. It's like, man, you create stability for me so that I'm not in chaotic world, right? I'm sure you and your husband are similar, right?
I'm dying, and people need to watch this on YouTube. Watching listening, but my husband is this, and I am
Exactly. See, got it.
the secret. It's the secret ingredient.
It's the secret. However, at some point, these women are like, wait a minute, why are you walking so slow? Pick up the pace.
I'm feeling very called out in this moment. So anyway,
Yes. So it's like, make a decision, get going, get moved, right? And then he's like, calm down, calm down. I don't need you to bring your chaos. Remember, I'm your husband. You're not at work. You can, you can't talk to me like that. Take off your hat, your work hat off. You can't talk to me like you talk to your assistant. So that's really that hurdle. What worked was very helpful, but now that we want to go faster, we want to make even more impact, we kind of vilify. Is that a good word? Vilify.
yeah.
Vilify the steady nature of our husbands, right? So that's not even the cause for divorce. What happens in long term, if not addressed, is that these men begin to withdraw because they want to get out of her way. They don't want to be in trouble with mom anymore, right? They're like, oh, I better hide. I better so they start to pick up new hobbies. They start to close themselves in the office. They just kind of get out of the way. And now she's like, where are you? Are you even here? And so they begin to actually, something that brought them close together, actually starting to tear them apart. And unfortunately, in some cases, the man will find somebody who's sweeter, nicer, calmer, right? And that, sometimes it's infidelity, sometimes it's just, I can't handle you, you're too much for me. So something happens, but they're on the brink of divorce. Not always, but unfortunately, a lot of times it's infidelity, right?
Right.
So that's, and it's not her. It's not the driven one because she doesn't have time for that. She's like, I gotta make things happen in my life. It's usually the quiet, nice, Mr. Nice Guy, right?
Wow. So when you're working with a couple like that, how do you even start, right? Because there is something so attractive to me about stability. And about consistency, right? And about, like, we're talking about James, he was stable, he was nice, and he was, like, there's something so valuable that I would feel for my life I could make Greg more volatile. Right? Like I am. Right? Right. How do you even begin a discussion with a woman without just saying, look, you're just letting he's stable or whatever?
Yeah. Usually, I always meet people where they're at, right? You got to meet people. So we really spend a lot of time. This is something that I was also giving a talk on at Inner Circle last month. But, just really meeting the person where they're at. What are you doing? When you look at him, what do you see? Do you see a loser, slow moving loser, or do you see a stable rock, right? Who do you have in your household? Like for you, for example, Sarah Grace, it sounds like you have a stable rock, right? Yes. But some women have gotten to that point where it's like, now he's a loser, right? Because these women go to a Tony Robbins event and they're looking at these men in the front row with these lions and platinum partners. That was me, Sarah Grace, because I used to work for Tony for a number of years. And I would go to these events and I'm looking at these men. I'm like, why is my man not like that, right? So you have that dating. So you have these people these women who are looking at some men who are like them, right? And they go home and they're like, why are you not like that? And he's like, well, this is what you got. This is what you got when you said yes to me. So I want to see, where are you, right? What are you doing? What do you see when you look at him, right? What do you believe about him? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about this marriage? Marriage is what? Boring, or marriage is exciting, or marriage is stable, or marriage sucks, right? It just depends on what you believe about marriage right now and your current marriage that allows me to really get into what's happening here. And then I dig into why, right? Why? What happened to you, right? Why? Like I told you, I grew up believing that all men are abusers, cheaters, alcoholics. So why do I believe that, right? So my past tells me a lot about myself, right? And what I bring into this marriage. And why did you need him? Why were you drawn to him? Because then when she starts to tell me why she was drawn to him with the stability and everything that we talked about, now she actually begins to soften and she's like, yeah, I actually like that guy. I remember the guy that I liked. Right? Now when she's softer, which isn't a weakness, it's a strength. Soften is a strength. So soft is a strength. So when she feels like she can soften towards him, now we can begin to work. Right now, we have love present.
Like, no wonder you're so good at what you do. No wonder, right? And it actually makes me think of our earlier discussion about is a metaphor not freedom kind of thing, where you're like, look, try it out. And I think sometimes when we get frustrated in a marriage, how many things you're for your still. When we look at marriage, we don't even want to have going down thoughts. Like, okay, yeah, he's miserable, but it's very funny. And we stop there instead of saying, what would it be like to or fly, or like didn't show up is doesn't get built. And so you're sitting there, you can add a vision or whether we put sitting or not. Help understand down. If they really felt this, what if he is more lucky? What if he was? What would that be? And maybe it's actually a disaster. But at least you allowed yourself to go down that road. You didn't want to have a chair and mentally about what I'm doing. You enter that.
Absolutely, we do. We do. That future pacing is part of what we do because, as you know, our brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. It reacts the same way to it, right? So when we create that potential future, they can say, yeah, I'm going to like that. Well, okay. Or they're going to say, oh, yikes. Thank you for that, right? Thank you for that perspective because I didn't see that coming, right? And it's huge. Because if you think about, I have another client that I was talking with this morning, a husband and wife, and she is everything. It's like you and I and her. It's all the same. We're all cooked in the same plate. And she owns a law firm and she's talking to one of her team members and she says, yeah, I'll bring they decided on Tuesday they're going to have a chili cook-off on Wednesday night at the office, typical D, right? And she's talking to the team member and saying, yeah, I'll bring 2 chilies tomorrow. And he's looking at her like, you will bring 2 chilies tomorrow? You don't even know how to make chili. And when she hangs up the phone, she's like, do we have any chili at home? He's like, you don't have chili at home. You have chili ingredients. And he's like, can you please? And she kisses him and she runs up the stairs to get more work done, right? Because she's a super successful law firm owner. And he's like, yeah, I like her today. I'm going to make this chili for her. But imagine if he was like her, then they would both promise chili and there'd be no chili.
I need this answer so much.
It's a simple example, right? But it's a real couple's example. If both were the same, then both be promising and not delivering.
Oh, and it's almost like that, the old adage of be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
Because it's probably not in real life. Stuff. Yeah. So I have a more personal question for you. The work that you do in this is working with a powered couple and also infidelity in the equation. I would imagine that there is pretty heavy burden out the work that you do. People are very unique and situations, decisions are made. How do you advise people on whether divorce or
if one person is questioning if they're in or out, if one person says, well, this happens sometimes when people are like, all right, now show me what you got, right? Then if they want me to perform, then I mean, how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So if you want me to perform, that means that you also want your spouse to perform. You're not all in, right? You're 1 foot out the door unless they shape up, right? So to me, that's an easy go your separate ways and save your time, right? So that's it. Other than that, if there is not, if I know that both people are all in, I truly believe that there's nothing they can't overcome.
So you do believe marriages are repairable and can thrive after it's died?
100%.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I really do. I have, unless that thing happened that I just described, I've never seen it not work out.
Which in a lot of ways, bringing back God shows the divinity and power of pride that it repaired. And after, probably one of the most painful.
Yeah, it is. It feels unforgivable. It is the most devastating thing besides a loss of a child or something. It's only second to that ultimate loss, right? But it seems irreparable. Most people who haven't experienced it will say, "Oh, I could never forgive." Most people will say that it's a big giant no, but I see it over and over again that people can actually create marriages beyond their wildest imaginations if they're both all in. And I'm not saying that the person who committed the crime, so to speak, is like, "I'm all in, but be patient with me until I feel." No, I'm all in. I am all in starting today. Right? I mean, it's a flip. It's James and I call it a 180, right? When we do certain things, we're like, okay, from now on, that's a 180 on me. I'm never going to do that again.
I love that.
Yes. So, and you do it, and that's it, right? So that's what all in. And then it's only a matter of figuring out why, what led to it, right? And the person that was cheated on, they do see that it had absolutely nothing to do with them. They're not a fool. They're not an idiot. Yesterday I was talking to a couple and she says, "Alma, please tell me, am I an idiot?" Absolutely not. You want to keep your family together. You want your children to grow up in a household where there's forgiveness, and where when they grow up and they meet their future significant others, they say, "You know what, mom and dad dealt with this. They know how to do this. They know, let's go to them." You want to be that place for your children when they grow up so they can come to you for wisdom. You're not an idiot, by no means. So there's unconditional love on my part, so I have to be the burden that you spoke of. I'm all in or I'm not. And I will tell them I don't work with people I'm not all in on.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have no doubt that our listeners are like, okay, I need more of her and more of her and more of her and more of her. So when you're feeling that in your soul, you guys can go down to the show notes on YouTube and you can find ways to connect with her podcast, connect with Alma, work with Alma. All the businesses are available to you. But girl, there is so much to you.
Thank you.
I'm just satisfied. Exactly. It's great of what you have in the world. And thank you, bravery and to life out there and declare your routine, declare your merit of what he is, and give her the massiveness of this. One is the best thing that you said today was what said not, then we will kind of hope that memories that when we have the big interest in literally God's word over white powers. And so our students, we always ask a lot about to make this mistake in business, in marriage. And so I'm going to go to her and do my own life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for noticing those. Those are very, very important. And those are great rules to live by in general. So thank you for paying attention to those and bringing them to life.
This is why my job is I pretty lonely. Okay, the typical unrepeatable economy fashion. I have just 2 questions for you. These are kind of rapid. It's a fun way to kind of, are you ready?
Yeah.
Brilliant. What is in the pot every century?
I mean, look, so it's hard. It's hard. I'm gonna say this one's probably gonna catch you by surprise, but the way of a superior man.
What? I've never had that one submitted. Okay, you
I
got it.
know. You said rapid fire. That's the first one that came for me. I can elaborate on it, but whoever reads it, they'll probably see why.
I love it. Okay, it's going on my to-do list. Mark the way this. Okay, the second question is, imagine the end of your life. What do you hope that James says about you?
Gosh, that I was love of his life. I was the love of his life. Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I believe love is, like you said, love is really our birthright. Love is what we deserve. That's God's unconditional love, but really love, that's, you can't run out of love. You can't ever have too much love. I mean, I want to continue to also earn that right to be the love of his life.
I love it. And I'm gonna check see how you're doing. I already know what he's gonna say about you.
He's amazing. He is amazing. Yes.
Thank you. Just from exploration of you and our given dates and you were coming and extraordinary. So thank you.
Thank you. You're so welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Unreasonable Autonomy podcast. If you loved this episode, my guests and I would love to hear about it. Go to the show notes to reach out and let me know what resonated with you or what topics or guests you want to hear in the future. I am here to create for you. Look, I deeply admire your commitment to pushing boundaries and going after an unreasonable life. Keep dreaming big, taking bold steps, and expecting the unreasonable. For more, go to the show notes to dive deeper into the conversations that will keep you going. Thanks for being here.